Okay, so we're live. Hey everyone, it's Nick here from Childcare Business Growth. So you're joining me again for another interview with one of our amazing superstars from our new book that's coming out, which is Childcare Top Tips. And I have the amazing Summer with me. Now, Summer, as I said to you before, I never ever do you like justification to your background and everything else. And I know the last time we spoke, you didn't even do yourself enough justice for all your amazing accolades, everything you've achieved. Do you want to just give everyone, if you don't mind, a quick overview to yourself and all the amazing successes you've had in the childcare industry?
Well, thanks, Nick. Let's see. Gosh, I never really know where to start, but let's see. I founded schools in the Twin Cities in the United States, in the Twin Cities area. I owned 3 Montessori schools. We had 450 students, 700 parents, 92 staff members. Did that for, I owned them for about 12 years. From there, I've been in the industry about 22 years. I have a background in social work, psychology, education, Montessori education. I'm a positive discipline classroom trainer, mad to glad parent coach, mom of 3 children, 3 amazing, wonderful children, wife to my fabulous husband, Eric.
You've got it all going on.
Yes.
And tell everyone, before we go into the actual topics and obviously what you cover off in your topic, tell everyone about your model now. What do you focus on now? You focus on helping childcare centers, and tell us a little bit about your area of expertise that you help childcare business with now.
Fantastic. Right now, I founded something called the Conscious Classroom Certification Model, and it is a training program primarily for owners, directors, and staff. And after I sold the schools, realistically, I thought I was going to take a nap. I was going to put my feet up. I was going to take a nap. I was going to do nothing for a second. It was right when COVID hit. And of course, at that time, everyone was in a panic. Everyone was a little bit scared. And I was getting calls from all of those people I mentioned, from my colleagues in the industry, from the parents, from the staff. And I thought, well, if I'm going to work, I'm going to get paid for it. So I started a consulting company kind of on the fly out of necessity. And from there, I realized, hey, you know what? I kind of like this. I'm back with my people, doing what I love, talking to people in the industry. And I just took all of my years of experience and I started creating content and courses for educators, for owners, directors, staff. All through COVID, I did parenting courses for preschool parents, virtually, of course. And so now I have a consulting and training company called the Conscious Classroom Certification Model. And it's my newest and greatest passion.
And of course, you've just as well, perfect timing, you've just released your own book as well. Do you want to tell them a little bit of a quick background about that one too?
I did. So it's Lonely at the Top, Organizational Strategies for Early Childhood Leaders. And once again, just going back to everything that we talked about, right? It's lonely at the top. Everything that we run into, and you have these big problems of like tiny toilets that flood all the time and staff members who call out, and you're like, what the heck? Like, it is the end of the world if you're going to be 15 minutes late. And these really big, weird problems where you feel so alone when you talk to people who aren't in the industry. And so I wrote a book that it's kind of a little bit humorous. It has some like funny stories of real, true things that happen in our industry, but it also is about organizational strategies, right? Where it's like, hey, you don't have to be alone. There is this massive community of childcare leaders and other people in the industry who are here to help.
Nice. So we'll make sure what we'll do, everyone, we'll post the link in the comments as well, so you can go and get your copy of that, because I'm sure it's going to be an amazing read. I haven't got my hands on one yet. So
you have a shout out in there. You're in the acknowledgements. You have the shout out in there.
You sent me a picture, but I'm looking forward to reading that one too. So now moving on to the new book, the whole idea around obviously all the promotion we're doing on this book right now is because the first thing I want to point out to everyone, we do not make any money from this book whatsoever. All the proceeds from this book don't go to a charity, Operation Underground Railroad, which is all about helping free children from sex slavery around the world. Okay. Now, one of the things, obviously, your topic that you speak about in this book is all around operational strategies. So, if you don't mind, let's give everyone a bit of a snippet into what do you cover in your top 10 tips.
Yes. All right. So one of the first things I cover in my top 10 is the difference between a handbook and a training manual. I know so many of the schools I work with, so many of the clients I work with, the first thing they do is I'm like, hey, show me your onboarding material, show me the stuff you give your staff. And they hand me this like 60-page handbook. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, this is great. And they're like, everything's in there. Like, I am covered. And I start reading through it. And you know that voice, that Charlie Brown teacher voice that's like, wah, 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 wah. That's what it's like reading that. And so I really think, you guys, we have to do better for our people. We have to do better for the people we're onboarding. We have to, number one, make it fun. So yes, it's good that it's in the handbook. I call that CYA, cover your, right?
Yeah.
We have to do better. So it's not only about covering your butt, it's also about making sure the people we're hiring know the information. And that's where this training manual comes into play. So are we presenting the information to our team in a way that they're receiving it and they know the information? How many times do we get people who come to an interview and they're like, I love kids. I love them. I love kids. And you as the owner, you're sitting there and you're like, oh, good. So glad you love kids. Can you keep them alive? Can you please keep them alive? And then you hand them the 68-page training manual or handbook, and then you're like, here, read this and keep them alive. Now, leaders, we're going to do better. We're going to chop it into this amazing training manual, and we're going to train them exactly how to keep these kids that they love so much alive. We're going to take everything that we have in our brains, and we're going to break it down into step-by-step information in a training manual.
Nice.
And so that's one of the things I talk about.
Okay.
Another thing I talk about is an organizational chart. And what I always say to people is, my organizational chart is going to look different than your organizational chart, Nick, then different than the chart down the street, because this cannot be plug and play. It's not going to be something that's plug and play because everybody's organizations are a little bit different, right? And so in an organizational chart, you need to know not only who's in charge, but who do you go to and when, like whose strengths. I had a co-founder of my school. I always called her the brains behind the operation. Like she was so smart, and she was smart with money. Like I was the visionary, like I could dream big and I could make things happen. But she was so like, I always just called her money bags. Let's be very clear what I called her, money bags. And like I would come up with this really big plan and I'd be like, oh, and now we have to go ask money bags if we can do this. Because and that was in our organizational chart. It was like summer, visionary, trainer, da, 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 da. And then Katie, finances, payroll, da, da, da. And so if you had a question on any of these things, you could look at the organizational chart in the training manual and know who to go talk to. If you had a question about child development, you could open it up to that page in the training manual and find child development and say, oh, I'm going to go talk to Summer because she's the expert in our company about child development. And in fact,
total accountability.
Yes. And in fact, there's her phone number and there's her email address right there under her name in that chart. So there is no room for error and no room for mistake. So I think that's really, really important when we're talking organizational chart. I think sometimes people are like, check, I got it done off my to-do list. And it's so much bigger than that. I always like to encourage people to go deeper. Like, don't just make it a thing on your to-do list. Let's really make it something that works for your company.
Yeah, nice. Very nice.
And then the third thing I'm going to talk about is licensing and compliance. Like, I know, like, we are governed by so many different things. We are governed by Department of Human Services and state and the health department and food and just all of these things. But we want to make sure that, like, as owners, we often know all the rules and the regulations, but we want to make sure your staff know the rules and regulations too. And so how do we make sure that happens? So we want to make sure we're not just talking about it at onboarding and then we never talk about it again. You have some sort of system for ongoing training. You have some sort of way that you can continue their education. Maybe there's a specialist, or if there's a person that was me, for example, when I started in this field at 18 years old as a dishwasher, I loved reading about licensing. That's a weird thing. Most people don't. I did. I loved being known as the person to go to. And my boss recognized that in me. And he was like, hey, if anyone has any questions, go to Summer. He said that at a staff meeting. That made me feel good. So of course, then I scoured the licensing documents because I was like, I wanted that job. And so to make sure we're pumping our staff up, making sure that we're letting them know that those are good things to do.
Nice. Very nice. So we've got onboarding, making it fun, that breaking it down. Next one is obviously the organizational chart, have that total accountability and where to go to, who's the expert, who owns that particular area, and then licensing and compliance as well. So I know you talk about, obviously, that's just a snippet, guys, of what Summer goes into. Because one of the big things we wanted to do with this book was to cut out all the fluff. We just said, hey, we'll go to all these experts. And we just said, if someone was to come to you and ask you for your advice for an hour, what would your top 10 tips be? And it's exactly what we've done in this book. Every industry expert has given us their top 10 tips. And some of theirs just giving you a very big snippet, just to 3 powerful things already that you can take away and make sure they're fully, not just, they're in your business, but they're fully implemented in your business too. So any last kind of thoughts or anything you wanted to mention to the audience, anyone that's listening right now?
Well, Nick, it was funny because as I was prepping for our conversation today and just flipping through the book and reading through it, I was just amazed at the content that's in this book. I was flipping through and I was looking at some of these names of my dear friends and colleagues that are in this book and reading through their words. And you're right. The fluff is all gone. This is a gold mine. This right here is a gold mine. It is full of amazing, amazing content.
Yeah, I think everyone, everyone's done a really good job. They've all just, I think that's the thing, that there's so much information out there. And I just wanted to take it to a point where, look, let's just break it down. Let's go through every sector of the business and let's look at, what's the thing you need to focus on now? One of the big things I try to say to people is they always say, I've got so many things going on. There's too much going on right now. And I always say to them, what's the next step you need to take right now? What challenges are going on in the business right now? Okay, if it's around compliance, focus on compliance. If it's around your staff onboarding, focus around staff onboarding. Just do one thing at a time, take that next step and find out all the information you need just on that one step.
I think that.
People try and tackle everything or, 4, 5, 6, 7 projects at a time. It's just impossible to do that, So that's what I want to do with this book, guys, is just to make sure let's go to these experts. These are the people that do this every single day, and just to get their top 10 books and top 10 points. I know some of you done an amazing job with yours. I'm very, very grateful for you and your contribution to the book. And I know there's lots more to come from you as well. So, guys, if you haven't got your copy yet, make sure you can get this book. As I said, all the money goes to Operation Underground Railroad to help free as many children as we can from sex slavery around the world. Summer, I'm super grateful for you jumping on, as always. And I'm looking forward to, getting a copy of that book. Share the link with me, and I'll make sure I post in the comments as well for everyone. So not only do you go and get this one, you need to go and get your copy of Summer's book too. Summer, I'm super grateful for you as always. I know you've got lots on. You're a really busy person as always, but I'm really grateful for you giving up your time to be here once again.
Thanks for having me, Nick. It's always fun to chat with you.
Thanks, Summer.